and welcome to our Lunch and Learn Technology and Bridging the Talent Gap. Before our webinar begins today, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. In case you did not know, you can earn 1 CPE credit by attending our presentation today. To receive the credit, you must stay connected to the webcast for the entire presentation and participate by responding to at least 3 of our interactive questions. You will receive an email within 2 to 5 business days with instructions on how to access your CPE certificate. We also invite you to complete the course evaluation that will occur at the end of the webinar. We appreciate your feedback. So I will now pass it over to our speaker, Stephen Yoss.
Colleagues, good morning. Welcome back to the office and welcome to our presentation for today. It is a pleasure to be with you on this beautiful Wednesday morning, and welcome to Technology and Bridging the Talent Gap. In today's presentation, we're going to be looking at a bunch of different things to hopefully help improve your organizational effectiveness and efficiency, whether it be with your in-office staff, your remote staff, and looking both at how we can leverage the existing people in your business to be more productive in the work that they do, or in options to use technology to kind of bridge that gap where maybe you don't have enough people to do that particular work. Well, in today's class, we're going to be looking at a couple of specific sections, including topics such as artificial intelligence and automation. Investing in technology in today's environment often will employ both AI and automation. There are several different tools and processes, platforms, and hardware and techniques that are out there that you can leverage that actually utilize AI at a pretty meaningful level inside your business. We're going to define what automation and AI is and how it works and how it functions. I'm also going to introduce a category of tool to you called iPaaS, Integration Platform as a Service. iPaaS tools are wonderful for automating data flow inside your organization and helping to reduce the amount of data entry and transitional work that you need to do between different applications. So iPaaS tools are applications such as Microsoft's Power Automate, Zapier, and others can essentially automate the flow of data from application A to application B, C, so on and so forth. And so I'll give you some different examples of what tools are out there and how they work. In the second section, we're going to talk a little bit about the basics of working from anywhere or work from home. We'll talk about what the virtual office is in the context of work from home, some of the reasons why you might want to consider it, some of the risks that you might want to address before moving fully into that remote space, and also why outside of just giving some better accessibility and better access to your staff, how it can actually help you improve with your personnel in the sense that if your office is allowed to be from home, well, why not from another state or even from another country? This could be a great opportunity to engage and hire people that are outside of your specific geographic area. If you think about it, it's kind of crazy to think that the only people you'll ever be able to work with are the ones that would live within an hour or so drive to your office. The world is your oyster and you can hire people from all over the world. And so I'll give you some tips on how that might work, including some specific recommendations on collaboration platforms, virtual office tech, and more. We'll finish with just a couple of my favorite latest and greatest apps and services, stuff that I think could really help you with leveraging technology, again, to kind of find that organizational effectiveness and efficiency. Now, this is just our starting off point. I'd love to know if you have any specific questions and if there's things in particular you'd like to hear me talk about today, or if there's specific expectations that you have for our course. Do me a favor, open up the chat section here, shoot me a message, let me know what you're interested in, and I'll do my best to try to weave that into our presentation for today. Alrighty, folks, let's go ahead and get into our first section here, which is on artificial intelligence and automation. And while these two are different topics, they are intertwined, and then more often than not, they do occur together. Now, in the context of your professional accounting firm and in the context of most businesses today, I think the emphasis is a little bit heavier on automation rather than AI, at least at the moment. Although uncommonly, we're seeing these two work in lockstep. We'll compare and contrast them here just in a moment. But what is automation? Well, automation in the context of business, it's what we talk about where we can have things done without the performance of human labor or the need for human capital. Okay. And if we can automate something, it's something that could be done routinely, either on a trigger or on a scheduled basis. A trigger is basically when something occurs, go and do it. Scheduled, it would be once a day, once an hour, once a year, perhaps. But either way, it's going to be done where it doesn't need human labor. Now, often we design automation procedures around what we've always done as people. And, when we design these procedures, we'll typically emulate, the actions that are typically performed by that individual. And we essentially will train the computer either through demonstrating how that work should be done or more commonly through programming to perform those actions for us in the future. And it will continuously run until its own intervention is required. And that intervention usually is when business conditions change, new opportunities present themselves, or the underlying data or systems themselves are change or different. Can you imagine, for example, changing from your existing tax system to a CCH product would require you to modify your procedures in order to be able to accommodate for that change in how the application or platform itself runs. So automation can exist and it can be really, really simple. For example, a thermostat in your home or your fridge, there's no major complex process or procedure behind it. It basically will maintain a temperature that you set until you change it to a different temperature going forward. But it just continuously automates your home. And if it's something where you set it to both cool and heat, it'll cool and heat just depending on what temperature you set, trying to keep you around that homeostasis status. Now, automation can get much more complex from there too. I mean, think about your car's traction control system, where it's often taking into account multiple independent factors under real world conditions and then automatically changing the settings of the car and the traction system to account, for rain, the slickness of the road, the speed of travel, and more. Now, we also have AI. Now, AI, as it's technically defined, is the study of what we refer to as intelligent agents. Basically, a device, a platform, a computer that perceives its environment and takes actions to maximize its goal. Well, colloquially, we really refer to AI as having a machine that can mimic cognitive function. Essentially, we want a computer system that can learn from existing data and then apply that learning to future data sets, where it's essentially problem solving based off of its experience. Now, in today's environment, when we think about AI, there's actually several different levels of AI from, let's just say, the real basic stuff like Alexa and the Google Play devices, all the way up to, let's just say the stuff that we would see inside of labs. But in business environment, almost everything that we see today is actually really, really simple AI, rule and based procedure AI, and then actually a specific subset of artificial intelligence, which is machine learning. And pretty much everything that you see, whether it be in your tax and accounting applications, whether it be in your operating system of your computer and or a device that you speak to, it's actually really machine learning. And again, it's really kind of focused on applying specific procedures to new input from the learning that it's done based off of old data. And so again, in short, it applies historical information on today's processing data without having to be specifically programmed for it. And so machine learning is really what powers when we talk about AI for audit or for accounting or applying bank rules in various different accounting systems or pulling transactions for testing and more. We're really working off of various different machine learning algorithms, and machine learning is all around you today. It powers the self-driving cars of Tesla. It's what powering your home automation devices and more. And often we're starting to see more and more machine learning and AI, simple AI, being built into many of the different products that we use on a regular basis. For example, in my business, and I split my time between teaching and writing and talking with wonderful folks like yourself and doing software development as a financial professional. Many of the tools that I use today have AI built into it. For example, my accounting program will have bank rules that will automatically apply based off of the text that is presented inside of the bank feed when it pulls down the transaction from Bank of America or Wells Fargo. I've got internal audit tools that I can use that can automatically analyze and scan various transactions inside of my general ledger that will pull out things that are particularly suspect that might require an additional level of review and more. And I would encourage you, as you're starting to think about, bridging the gap inside your organization, to really consider applications and tools that leverage artificial intelligence and automation on a meaningful level, because it's something that's going to continue to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's never going to take a day off and more, and it will directly reduce the number of human personnel hours that you're going to need to do a given task. Now, often we see artificial intelligence and automation together, but not necessarily. Sometimes you'll have tools that'll just have AI that just do analysis and present data to you. For example, a lot of the tax and accounting tools are just like that. They just tell you what's up, but they don't necessarily do any decision making or action. And sometimes you'll just have automation, and that's just basically a process. Most forever, for example, industrial controllers in manufacturing space, they weren't necessarily utilizing AI, but they were absolutely automated, running continuously like a conveyor belt or a machine press until intervention is required. So to compare these two next to each other, AI is decision making based off of prior experience and the information it receives going forward. Automation is like a preset, and it runs to perform specific tasks. AI helps to analyze patterns and arrive at a particular solution. Automation is machines that are designed and to run off of specific procedures and to carry out a routine job. In terms of artificial intelligence, it's really good for non-repetitive tasks. Each task is separate and distinct from the other from its procedures. So imagine you're analyzing a tax return, or you're analyzing billing or expenses on a report. Each expense, each tax return would be separate and distinct, giving it its care and intention in each level. AI automation, on the other hand, is really going to be good for that good automation and repetitive nature of the work that you do. It really kind of help, I think, reduce the monotony and the workload that most people interact with on a regular basis. And both of these are approachable in things that you can do right today. Artificial intelligence and automation is present again in so many different applications. In fact, most tools, just picking on the Microsoft products as an example, have a variety of both AI and automation built right into it. In the Microsoft world, it could be everything from Microsoft Power Query and Microsoft Power BI. It could be, for example, in many accounting solutions, the bank feeds and the automatic transaction classification and more. And in fact, I guarantee every single person here on a day-to-day basis is engaging and interacting with automation and artificial intelligence technologies all the time. And here are three main categories that you could choose to use where you could leverage technology instead of people to get that same effect. And what's awesome about today's world and where we stand is that this technology is approachable for all size organizations. It's not something that's only available to the Fortune 500 that have giant IT teams and huge budgets. These are products and services that are often available regardless of how large you are and don't require a lot of sophistication on the part of your company to be able to do. So 3 big bucket categories: process automation, doing back office routine tasks like the data sharing and the integration and the movement of information from one system to the other. Things that we would typically pay an administrative staff to do the data entry for us. Well, guess what? I'm going to give you a couple tools here just in a moment that you can consider using that will do that exact task for you. We have cognitive insight tools that essentially can analyze and data, interpret the meaning, and present new and insightful analysis for you to make decisions. As I mentioned, in many accounting systems and audit systems now, AI and automation are a huge part of the audit process because they can be able to examine not just a sample of transactions, but potentially all transactions, analyzing them individually, analyzing them in the context of each other, in the greater picture, pulling out the stuff that the auditors should be really focusing their efforts and on the engagement on. And then there's also tools for cognitive engagement. I guarantee every single person here in the last week has talked to an AI and didn't know about it. Most of those automatic systems that you call a company and they ask you to, speak what you're looking for, or for example, if you've ever gone to a website and chatted with a customer service person, there's a really, really good chance that you weren't actually talking to a person. You know, it wasn't actually Jacob from Indiana or Susan from San Francisco. You're probably talking with a computer system that is doing the actual analysis, at least the beginning part of it. And if needed, hands it off to a human to be able to do that work. But all three of these tasks, there are a variety of different platforms and products that you can consider getting today to perform these actions for you. And that's a great opportunity to invest in technology rather than people. So often, as I mentioned, we see AI in business together. Okay. I'm going to say that automation is focused typically on hardware or software to do things automatically without human intervention, while artificial intelligence is going to be focused on decision making. And yes, you can do these independent of each other, but when you pull them together, when you give the computer system the ability to be able to interpret results based off of historical context, now you've created a system that can run on its own and can continue to operate even when business conditions change, allowing you to be able to expand operations and focus on the higher value tasks inside of your company, allowing you to shed some of the lower value tasks, monotonous tasks, and expensive tasks to the computer system to do on your behalf. Now, this brings us to our first polling question. All right, so feel free to respond. As long as you respond to a option, it doesn't matter which one option you choose. That will track your attendance and prove that you're here for our compliance tracking purposes. But feel free to respond accordingly. What is the significant distinguishing difference between artificial intelligence and machine learning? Is it that AI is focused on maximizing chances of success, where machine learning is focused on producing accurate results? Artificial intelligence is focused on creating systems to solve problems like humans, while machine learning solves problems like computers. AI learns from past behaviors, machine learning does not. Feel free to respond on how you see fit. I could see truth in many of the different responses that we have listed here. Now, when it comes to actually doing artificial intelligence or automation inside your business, again, you're probably going to find a lot of these different tools that are built inside of existing applications, platforms, and services that you use already. Many of the major publishers that are out there are often incorporating these technologies, not only because it provides a competitive advantage for the marketplace, but it genuinely helps people and helps the existing customers. And but you might find, for example, that you need a separate tool, a new category of tool to really kind of bring everything together. And that category of tool is what we call integration platform as a service, or iPaaS. Now, iPaaS tools and the major categories of products that are out there are tools such as Microsoft Power Automate, Zapier, if this, then this, then that, and others are really kind of focused on moving data and performing actions in various systems. These are what I refer to as trigger and action workflow tools. A trigger is something that initiates a series of actions in other systems. And we have triggers all around us and in our everyday life. For example, creating of a new order inside of our company, payment of a customer invoice, clocking in of a staff member, and more. If you think of it, there's always a before and then there's a definite after when that particular action occurs. And that action, in this particular case, alerts the system that something has happened, and then we tell the computer system to go do a series of actions thereafter. Now, what's really cool about these tools is that they're very simple to use. They don't require a master's degree in computer science. They're approachable by all levels of technology, training, and understanding, and they're very affordable to consider using. And the output of why you might want to use a product like this is that it can significantly improve the automation of your workflow, moving data and information from one system to the other, as well as eliminating the need for humans to actually do subsequent actions inside of a company. So most of these tools, if not all of these tools, are what we refer to as also web and app-based, meaning that they do not require, again, programming. Rather, the configuration and the design of everything that you do is actually done through a web browser. So Chrome or Edge, whatever browser you choose to use, you'll typically set up the configuration inside of there. Additionally, some of these have mobile apps, and you can do it straight on your iPhone or Android as well. Okay. These tools, for all intents and purposes, are a black box. They often will integrate in with multiple different applications. In the case of, for example, Zapier, which is probably the oldest and most widely used of these integration tools, it has over 3,000 different programs, platforms, and services that it can speak to, allowing you, for example, to be able to pull data from your CRM and then push it over to your accounting system. And then maybe, for example, go on and post a message in Teams or Slack or even send you an email and more. You don't have to worry about the security to and from Zapier to that particular CRM. You don't have to worry about the authentication to Teams or how it needs to talk. You don't have to deal with the data management and more. It's all taken care of for you. And so all the logic and the programming needed to make this operate, it's just going to continue to operate. No need to really kind of know how it works. You just need to know the outcome of what you're looking for. So let me give you a couple of examples of where and how these solutions can be really useful. So for example, iPaaS tools can automate lots of your common business functions. So for example, let's say you've got an accounting system and you create a customer record inside of that accounting system, and then that customer record, there's your name, there's the address, there's the phone number, there's the contact person. And often it's not just having to create that record in the accounting system, which I need to not only produce invoices, but when that customer eventually pays that invoice, mark it as being paid and track AR and reporting and everything goes off. But we often have other systems inside of our company. A recent study and report that I was reading about organizational technology indicated that most businesses from small to large organizations are using upwards of a dozen different systems inside their company. And I'm sure if you're a Fortune 500 firm, I'm sure it's hundreds if not thousands. I'm sure a company like IBM or Apple has enormous sophistication and probably has lots of different systems above and beyond just what their accounting system is. And if you think about it, often, even in a small business, you're not only creating the customer in the accounting system, but you maybe have a sales and customer system that you use to track the engagement with these folks. Maybe, for example, you've got a spreadsheet that you're tracking people in that you can just reference quick, that's right on your desktop. Maybe you've got an ERP system that you're using to track, logistics and warehousing for orders and more. Well, with an iPaaS tool, instead of having to go and set up that customer in every single place in all the different systems that you use, you instead set up that customer in one designated system. And then that iPaaS tool will see that that customer has been created and will subsequently go and create that customer in all the other places that they need to be throughout your organization, eliminating the need for you to have to put that customer record in system B, system C, system D, so on and so forth. And subsequent actions like creating of a custom invoice, payments, pulling reports, and more would be fairly automated. So an example here, trigger, I create a new customer in the accounting system. The action would be that iPaaS tool would then go create the customer record in whatever our company's CRM system might be, customer relationship management. Trigger, sales team updates that customer address because we don't want the sales team in the accounting system because they're going to screw something up. Not a problem. They have their own tool, whether it be Salesforce, whether it be HubSpot, whether it be a proprietary solution or more, not a problem. That iPaaS tool sees that a salesperson updated that address and then will push that data over to the accounting system, updating it automatically. Trigger, we create a new invoice inside of that accounting system. That iPaaS tool maybe could even send a message on Teams or Slack to set a message to let the salespeople know that an invoice has been sent. Trigger, that invoice is paid in the accounting system. Okay, no longer does the accounting team or the sales team have to come and manually check on a payment. The iPaaS tool could update the customer record in whatever system the sales team is using, letting them know it's being paid. It could also update things like an Excel workbook, send a message on Teams, even an email, letting you know that that is action. Done. And if you think about it, you've got your trigger. That trigger can follow up in subsequent systems, whether it be a sales system, a manufacturing system, a communication system, a data management system, and more, performing those updates and moving the data automatically for you. Whatever was present in that first action, like the name, the address, so on and so forth, would be available to be able to be pushed into those other systems. And instead of you actually having to go and work with system 1 and system 2, system 3, so on and so forth, the iPaaS tool is doing that work for you automatically. And there are triggers and actions across the board in so many different categories that you could choose to use, whether it be updating based off of orders inside your systems, emails that are received inside of your inbox, records that are created inside of your accounting system, leads that come in through your sales team or website, and more. And it could do all sorts of automation and actions. So for example, updating other systems, sending messages, copying attachments and moving files around for you, and more. There's so many different things that you can use. And again, these are a super approachable solution. They don't require you to have a lot of sophistication or even a lot of understanding of computer systems to be able to operate. There are tools at every level, and there are tools for every purpose. I would say the most generic of the tools that probably has both a good fit in your personal life and in your professional life would be Zapier. Um, you can check them out by going to zapier.com. If you're looking for something solely for your personal life, maybe to do home automation, Internet of Things projects, check out If This Then That. That's definitely probably the easiest and the quickest one to get started with. And if you're looking for more of a business-oriented application, you should check out Power Automate. Definitely great, especially inside the Microsoft ecosystem of products. There's other tools too, including N8N, Soho Flow, also worth a look. Let's go ahead and have our second polling question here. Which of the following statements is true concerning AI and automation? All AI products must be automated. All automation projects must utilize AI. AI and automation can be used together or independently of each other. And again, doesn't matter what you choose, just choose something so that we can mark your engagement. Now, from my perspective, the great news is that you can choose to use one or both of these technologies depending on the needs of your project. I love the metaphor of the IT tool belt, and I love that with my IT tool belt, I can have as many tools on that belt as I need. And why do I have, multiple different screwdrivers inside of my workshop? Well, sometimes you need a Phillips and sometimes you need a flathead. And the great news is for your IT tool belt, you can reach for AI when you need it. You can reach for automation when you need it. You pick the right tool for the job, and they can be used together or independent. Now, in our next section, let's just briefly talk through some of the reasons why you might want to consider the virtual office for your organizations, and then also incorporating work from anywhere. Now, from my perspective, I really don't view this as being optional anymore. I really feel that not only is these technologies more compelling and often better, they're really kind of necessary for our workplace and the changing nature of the work that we do. Work isn't always conducted in a single place anymore, and nor should it be. This is through the miracle of communications networks and the internet, we have the ability to be able to operate and work anywhere, whether it be from our home office, from the road, and more. In fact, I practice what I preach. Outside of writing and teaching, my core business is a company called Debmatics. We're a software development company, primarily building custom software solutions for our clients when systems don't exist to do the work that they're doing. But my team is globally distributed. Many of us live and operate here on the West Coast, but we do have people outside of the West Coast that we're able to work and conduct with. And that's pretty common now. It's crazy to think that, again, to use that example, that the only folks that could ever work with you are the ones that live within, an hour drive of the office. And today we live in a global economy. You absolutely could have a company based in Los Angeles. You could have software developers in India. You could have customers across the globe and more. And whether you choose to embrace globalization and global communication networks or not, that doesn't mean your competitors aren't going to. And frankly, I think you need to, if no other reason than just to remain competitive. But I'll tell you, it's awesome because, through, again, the internet, you can be connected and you can have the same working experience regardless of the physical location you're in. And you can have clients and customers and vendors worldwide. In fact, today is a great example. We've got people from probably all over the United States, but yet we're all in our home or we're all in our office and we're still able to connect and learn together. So I personally would encourage you as much as you can to incorporate these technologies for no other reason than just to remain competitive. And in my opinion, it's not optional. Virtual office, not only the technology, but the processes and techniques that go into making a good virtual office setup allow you to conduct business anywhere in the world, and you can have customers anywhere in the world. My company, we're not big, we're about a dozen employees, but again, we're primarily here on the West Coast here. Everybody's based in the US, but we have customers all over the world. I've got clients in Europe, I've got clients in Africa, Asia. I'll tell you, on the time zone change, it can sometimes be difficult. There's plenty of really late nights and really early mornings, but it's really awesome knowing that from my home office, from here in beautiful Big Bear Lake, California, high in the mountains of Southern California, in one day I can talk with my clients in Europe, and in one night I can talk with my clients in Asia, and all of that can conduct without me having to ever leave my beautiful mountain. So in terms of the virtual office, it is a virtual workplace not located in any one physical space. It's usually a collection of several workplace technologies that are connected through the internet, and it doesn't have the typical geographic boundaries that we would see with a in-office. And employees are able to interact through collaborative working environments regardless of where they're located. From my perspective, the virtual office is really kind of just the freedom from the traditional limitations of that single physical office. And we're not here to talk about the impact of COVID and what that means, but a lot of us got a taste for it during the COVID years. And frankly, I think a lot of us found that, we're as productive or more productive than when we were in office. Now, I know a lot of people are choosing to come back or being forced to come back, and every company has their own prerogative. But from my perspective, especially for knowledge workers like myself, and as I imagine most of you are, as long as I got a good laptop, a second monitor, and internet access, I'm good to go. I can work and operate anywhere. Now, what are some of the benefits of the virtual office? Well, first and foremost, I can tell you from a company perspective, you're going to save a lot of money. On average, most organizations see a permanent cost reduction of $11,000 per employee per year. And additionally, the employee often sees a reduction of about $4,000 per year, typically from avoiding the costs of having to commute to and from the office. And that number is not really hard to come up with. First, on the employee side, I don't know how about where you guys are, but the price of gas is crazy right now. So I think if anything, it'd probably be higher. And that cost from the company isn't that hard to get to either, because again, the cost of real estate, the cost of parking, the cost of common business technology like copiers and more. When someone works from home, typically those costs are shifted to the employee. A quick tip from my perspective, what we do for our staff is that we give an expense reimbursement above and beyond the typical paycheck to help offset the cost of additional electricity, their internet, or something like that. In fact, for many of our employees, we pay for their internet bill directly so that we don't incur additional costs to them for the opportunity to work from home. Additionally, we pay for all of their technology. My partner and I are big proponents of, having company supply computers, so on and so forth. And I would encourage you to do that as well, for no other reason than from the security perspective. If you have to change the nature of that employee relationship, there's no question on whose computer it is. It can come back to you. But frankly, a $2,000 computer, every other year is a small expense compared to what the ongoing expense of rent or utilities for an office environment would be. Generally, people who at least have the opportunity to work from home when they want to, or a hybrid workplace environment where they can work from home at least some measure during the week, typically will have better job satisfaction, which leads with better engagement, better work-life balance, and more. Typically, the flexibility in the workplace allows for better employee absenteeism, so you won't have people as absent as much. Possible increased flexibility, hours of workplace. I've got staff that have young children, and it means the world to them to be able to take off a Tuesday afternoon and go watch a sports practice, or to drive their kids to school in the morning. Or frankly, for my wife and I, again, we live up in the mountains. We often, especially in the winter, we take off the morning, we go skiing almost at least 2 to 3 days a week during the winter. It's fantastic, and then we work late at night, and that's fine, but we appreciate that flexibility. And for myself, I've tried to design my life around the things I like to do. Now, for you all, with respect to kind of bridging the gap here, I'm going to tell you what's awesome with this is that expanded candidate pool. Again, it's crazy to think the only people that can work from you live within an hour. When you employ the virtual office, everybody is virtual at that point. It doesn't matter if you're in that physical office space, you're still given the ability to connect to the internet, and your servers and your technology behind it are also up there. So it doesn't really matter where you are. You're always remote in the context of the ERP system, the accounting system. It doesn't matter because none of that technology is physically in the office, and it works the same whether you're at home or not. And so from my perspective, this gives you the opportunity to expand who you could hire and also the different types of candidates. Again, there are certain folks that might be incredible workers, but don't really work well in an office, stay-at-home parents, millennials, Gen Z maybe, military spouses, people with disabilities, and others who could be excellent and productive employees, but frankly just don't work well in an office. And I kind of throw myself in this category. I joke that, early in my career, I realized that I wasn't really good at showing up to the office consistently at 8 in the morning. I just never really saw the point of it. And so frankly, I think myself of being a good colleague and a great boss, but I love the fact that if I need to come in at 10, I can. Though I will tell you, at least in today's environment, there's more early days than there are late. Now, as great as it is, there are important things to consider that can go on the other side of this. Less opportunity for collaboration. It's hard to replicate those in-person experiences, that sense of esprit de corps and more. But I think you could certainly improve it using technology collaboration platforms like Teams and Slack. I could tell you there are certainly more security concerns. Instead of having to secure a single network, now you have to secure all the networks where people might be connecting. Again, this can be leveraged utilizing Windows 11 and modern Microsoft infrastructure like Azure or AWS Cloud. Could certainly improve the security and more. And I think the biggest concern is that that employers would have is that low producers are going to fly under the radar. And I certainly don't think that's the case. I think, in fact, most folks tend to be more productive than less productive, assuming they've got a nice setup to be able to work remote. But I think most people want to give you their best effort. They just like a little bit more flexibility to be able to do so. Now, a lot of us are still working remote. Some of us are going back to the office. Whether you are in office 100% or out of the office, regardless, the cloud technology is going to work the same. And maybe you'll, for example, consider a hybrid approach where you get the best of both worlds. Now, working remotely does require some particular technology, in my opinion, to make this effective. You certainly are going to need communication tools to stay in contact, remote access tools to be able to find your files, documents, and be able to connect and sync data across all your devices. We certainly need to keep security in mind to keep ourselves secure, whether we're in a coffee shop or we're in our home. Security is paramount to maintaining the integrity of our workplace. And we're going to need our different applications and services. The good news is there's so many great options, whether it be Microsoft Teams or Slack or any number of CCH products for your tax and accounting needs that can leverage and utilize cloud technology to allow you to be able to work anywhere. And in fact, what I often say with my colleagues and my attendees for my classes is that in today's environment, the cloud is the rule, not the exception, and that whenever possible, you should first and foremost be considering cloud technology first, because in most cases it is better and offers newer and compelling functionality than its traditional server-based approach inside your office. Now, I've got some additional slides here that unfortunately we won't have some time for, but I will point out that you can take a look at them. I've got some essentials for working in that virtual office and working remote, whether it be having a good dedicated workspace, quiet office, good internet access, and more. And I also have some regular tips that I provide with folks that I think really kind of make that virtual office work well for you. Whether it be having a plan and knowing what you're doing, being available for social interaction and still investing in the culture of your company and more. Or, for example, ensuring that you track your time, both for your case as well as the employee's case, will be able to prove that that certain quotas are being met and that certain things are efficient and effective. Generally, I try to avoid setting quality based off of time. For example, in our company, we certainly track our time on things, but we try to pick non-time based metrics like number of tax returns processed as an example if you're in a tax office, or number of engagements completed. We use time mostly to judge if people are struggling. So if I see you, for example, taking time, an inordinate amount of time on a project, that's a great inflection point to provide more training and more. And one other recommendation I'll provide to you with respect to you as an employer is there's certainly going to be non-technology things like employment laws and insurance and taxes and more. One of the best things I think you can consider as an employer is to consider what we call a PEO, a professional employer organization. My company, as I mentioned, we're distributed. We've got people all over. Before we utilize the PEO, if I wanted to hire an employee, let's say in Texas, I would have to go and file for an LLC paperwork in Texas, get insurance in Texas, pay taxes in Texas, and more. I would tell you that a PEO, a professional employer organization, takes care of all of that for you. And in essence, your employees actually are employed by the PEO directly, and the PEO becomes technically the employer of record responsible for all aspects of whether it be paying the taxes or filing the payroll returns and more. We're in 5 states for our staff, and I'm only incorporated in the 2 where their partners live, which in our case is California and Oregon. And that's allowed us to be able to hire a great employee in Vermont or a great employee in Florida without having to take on the additional overhead and headache of all the additional compliance that would go into that particular state. So I would encourage you, for those of you who are looking to maybe expand the markets that you hire and acquire staff, that PEO can be really compelling for you to consider. So we've got another polling question here. What is the expected cost savings per staff member that works remote? Is it 2, 4, 11, or 20,000 per year? The number I quoted in our presentation here was 11,000 per year. That 11,000 per year came from a Department of Commerce report that discussed the long-term effect and impact of technology and the cost reduction that you could expect. Question for the audience came in here. How do you overcome the issues with collaboration with not being in the same office? Great question there. And I would tell you, you'd probably need a collaboration tool. Unfortunately, given the time that we have, I'm going to have to leave these slides for you to be able to reference on your own. But there are a whole package and platform of tools that you might want to consider. The 2 big ones that I would recommend is either a Google-centric approach or a Microsoft-centric approach. And these tools will offer storage, they will offer document collaboration, they will offer communication tools and more. And frankly, they're both awesome. They have just different use cases. One's Coke, one's Pepsi. I guarantee everybody's gonna have their own preference one way or the other. But specifically, let's say with Microsoft 365, 365 comes with Microsoft Teams, which is a centralized communication tool for your organization. It incorporates chat, audio, file sharing, and more. You can even do real-time collaboration where you can have multiple people collaborating on a document together, and you could see keystroke by keystroke for individuals what they're actually doing. And you could then instantly fire up a video chat with each other and be able to talk and communicate. For my company, this is what we've used for years. It's been tremendously successful with us. And again, we're distributed, and often I only get together with my business partner once or twice a year. I would say the 99% of our relationship and the success in our business has been over the computer and through regular communication through Teams. So Teams or Slack, and there are plenty of tools inside the ecosystem and more that I think could be really helpful and competitive and compelling for you. Now, also outside of the collaboration platforms, I've also provided some recommendations on some specific types of computers and some specific hardware that you might want to consider. Good news is, because most things are cloud-based these days, the operating requirements of your machines are much lower than they used to be even just a few years ago. But I've got some specific recommendations on what you might want to consider, and I've also provided for you a couple of examples of some great portable computers that would be a great complement for your folks that are working out of the office. Now, folks, we're just about out of time here, and I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Matt, to discuss some of the incredible products that he's got for us today through the CCH lineup. I just want to end with just a couple of quick recommendations. I've got a section here on the latest and greatest apps and services. I'm constantly on the lookout for some of the greatest new computer programs, hardware devices, and more that you might want to consider. And I've listed them out here today that are really kind of useful for you to use. Just a couple that I'll mention right off the bat, and then I'll turn it over to Matt. If you're looking for a great product to track your time, and again for product for utilization and effectiveness reporting, something that's just bonehead simple for understanding where and how your employees are spending their time, check out Clockify. Great free product, although there are some compelling reasons to consider the paid version of this. But if you just need a simple time tracker for billing and productivity purposes, look no further. I've had great success with this. If you are like me and meet and contact and deal and are regularly communicating with people, you know the headache of trying to set up a meeting, you know, that back and forth of, can you do Tuesday at 2? No, I can't. Can you do Monday at 5? No, I can't. Well, a tool that I have completely adopted for automating the meeting creation process is Calendly. Wonderful tool. You can check them out at calendly.com. They've got a free version of this. This will ensure that when someone books an appointment, you're not double booked. It will prevent somebody from booking when you already have something on your calendar. And it watches your calendar in real time and will find those opportunities in your schedule for you to be able to meet, but it's constantly looking at your Google Calendar or your Office 365 calendar and will only allow people to book times for what you want. And there's a whole set of automation inside of it that are really compelling for you to be able to use. And my last recommendation for you is this device. It's called a Stream Deck, and this is a little bit out there, but I'm going to leave you for it, and I would really encourage you to look this up. This is, in my opinion, the last mile of automation, and it's something that, frankly, it's an indispensable part of my kit and something I have to travel with now. But this is, think of it as an external keyboard with 36 keys. There's also smaller versions with 15 and even 6 keys, and each key is a hotkey. Think of it as like a USB keyboard, and you could build automation with the push of a button. And so you could push a button and it could do something on your computer, whether it be launching your favorite websites, opening up your favorite applications, opening up folders, files, and more. And I use it constantly. I've actually got all of my time and billing on here. And if you can imagine on this little screen, I've got a screen set up with little pictures of all of my clients. And when I start my time and billing in Clockify, I hit a button and it automatically starts a timer related to that particular tasks. And you can do so much more with this. And it is an endlessly customizable device. In my opinion, it's something that every financial professionals can benefit from, because we're all doing relatively the same thing over and over again in the different applications that we use. And this is a fabulous tool to automate those procedures and more. Well, folks, that's it from me. I just want to say thank you to my colleagues at CCH for bringing me here today to hopefully give you some different technology recommendations and thoughts. I will provide my contact information at the end of the presentation, but I want to say a big thank you to all of you for taking some time out of your busy life to come learn with me today. And I'd like to hand it over to my good friend and colleague, Matt, to talk a little bit about CCH's Accounting Research Manager and how it can assist you in your professional tax and accounting practice.
Thanks, Steve. Excellent job. I definitely appreciate your time and effort this morning, and thank you everybody for attending. We definitely appreciate it. Hopefully this session is very informative and you're able to have some good takeaways moving forward. I'm actually going to show my screen and actually walk you through our flagship software. It's actually a product called CCH Accounting Research Manager. And what that is in a nutshell is it's our flagship accounting and audit research guidance and materials. One of the main efficiencies and really increasing productivity, not only for yourself, but for your colleagues, your staff, whether it's a public accounting firm you're with, or whether you're in private practice, or you work as a corporate controller, or even a VP of financial reporting on the SEC side for a publicly traded entity. We've got coverage pretty much A to Z when it comes to accounting regulatory, auditing information, as well as internal controls, fraud and forensic, and governmental accounting if you work for any state and local governments. I'm actually just going to briefly walk you through some examples in the accounting section of Accounting Research Manager, kind of show you how our accounting standards actually tie into not only the authoritative guidance from all the legislative bodies like the FASB, GASB, PCAOB, the AICPA,
Matt,
all those standard setters. Yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to let you know that we're only seeing the desktop of your screen. So just wanted
Oh,
to let
okay.
you know that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
apologize for that.
No worries. I just didn't want you to get to the end and not have shown
Yeah,
what you were
maybe.
hoping to show us because there's some great stuff
Okay.
in here. Sorry to interrupt you. I
Yeah,
just wanted to point
no,
it out.
that's okay. I appreciate that, Steve. Yeah, I guess that's the only caveat. We're talking about technology. I guess that's the only caveat to working off of 3 monitors. So I definitely appreciate that insight. So can everybody see my screen now? Can you see my Accounting Research Manager homepage?
Yep, looks great to us.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to actually go ahead and walk us through this. The CCH accounting standards, what that is actually, it ties together, it's our accounting standards. So it ties together the FASB codification. It actually mirrors the FASB codification as far as topic sections are concerned. If you look at this number section here, you'll see if I go down to topic 360, for example, that actually has to do with PP&E, the property, plant, and equipment. That follows the exact topic number as it would stand today in the FASB cod. If we go into here, apologize if it's taking a moment here, you'll actually see this breakdown. We've got an overview summary of information that kind of goes into the scope of what property, plant, and equipment entails, capitalization issues, historical cost, construction costs that are going to come up throughout the course of this. But you'll see here on the far right column, we've got the International Accounting Standards, which has been superseded by IFRS. That's the International Financial Reporting Standards, as well as the US GAAP coverage of these issues. So we kind of do a great job of comparing and contrasting the two if you do have international issues that come across abroad as well as here in the States with US GAAP. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on US GAAP historical costs. And up pops our ARM accounting standard. And once again, you'll see these nice headers up at the top telling you where you are. You're in the ARM service in the AS, which is the accounting standard for property, plant, and equipment. I can kind of scroll through the summary, but once again, the accounting standard does an excellent job of tying together not only the authoritative body content through US GAAP, but also our interpretations, which is our actual interpretations from our CCH editorial staff. So I can actually go in, I can combine this information, look at other areas that are germane to this area. You'll see a related content bar. We also have that as well. And once again, the main efficiencies that ARM brings to the table is being able to combine all of your research materials, whether it's the authoritative content, our actual interpretive guidance from our ARM editorial staff, as well as real world examples. All this information is in one place and it's on one screen. And the beauty of this is being able to have this information on the screen. You see we've got a colored flag system. That actually doesn't go away anywhere on the document. And the reason is for that is if you ever print this off to share it with a client or share it with a colleague, if you were to download this and save it to a PDF or Word document, or if you were to share it internally with your colleague, like Steve, for example, if he was in my firm and I wanted to send this document over to him via email, I could do that quickly and these flags are once again going to stay with the document. So if I send this to Steve via email, he's going to read this and actually know that he is in our CCH ARM interpretive guidance, as opposed to a gray flag, which is our authoritative guidance from the FASB, for example. So I just wanted to quickly point that out. And also as well, from a efficiency standpoint, you always know within a county research manager where you are within the service. And what I mean by that is up here in this blue header column, or row rather, you're gonna see a breadcrumb trail. And really, these are hyperlinks within this breadcrumb trail of everywhere I went in order to get to this document source. So if I want to go back a screen, I can easily click on that, and it's going to take me back to topic 360, dealing just with property, plant, and equipment. That's that screen we saw just 2 or 3 minutes ago. I'm going to go ahead and hit the home page. And other things I wanted to point out here, you know, once again, there's different ways to get your answers, right? Everybody works a little bit different, whether it's a seasoned practitioner or whether it's, like Steve mentioned, maybe somebody, you know, Gen Y, Gen Z, whoever it is, millennial that's coming aboard. Everybody does research a little bit differently as far as how they start out in their research process. But once again, we've taken all that into account. You can do a keyword search up here in the box for, I'll use advertising costs for an example. I could type in and do a keyword search for advertising costs. It's going to bring me to, once again, our accounting standard interpretation for this. And you'll see within here, once again, this brown interpretive flag telling me it's our editorial staff information from our accounting standard dealing with topic 720. But the nice thing is you see all these different highlights in here in yellow. That's where it actually performed a keyword search. That can somewhat be aesthetically, I don't want to say annoying, but aesthetically displeasing if you're trying to read through a huge document on the screen as this. So if I want to turn that off, I can actually turn the highlighted search terms off just with a click of the mouse here off this this little radio button. But I want to just quickly scroll through this. You'll see the FASB accounting standard codification. You're going to see other guidance, which is the accounting standard updates, the ASUs. You're going to see, once again, our interpretation of this issue as it pertains to financial statement disclosure manual. This is our GAAP financial statement disclosure manual. You're going to see a ton of real world examples. Once again, how to apply this, right? You can read all information all day from the FASB website, from CCH ARM, but if you can't interpret and you can't apply it, the rubber's not meeting the road. So you want to be able to have these real world examples at your fingertips. Click on these little pieces of paper icon, and once again, it's going to take you right to those real world examples that you're going to find throughout our documents. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the back arrow key here, or back section, I should say. Once again, finding the information all in one place. I'm going to go back to the home screen. And we also have a topics A to Z section. So if I'm not really familiar with the area at hand, or I'm not really sure everything that might be germane to the issue, and I'm not sure where to start, I can actually look under all topics, auditing, regulatory for SEC. I can narrow it down. But if I want to go down again to say that advertising cost piece that we just showed, that we did on a keyword search, I'm going to actually find it a different way, which is through our A to Z topics. I can go right in here, click on it, and you're going to see it's going to bring me to the same exact area we were before. Those yellow keyword searches disappear because obviously we didn't do a keyword search. We found it through a different formatting, which is through topics A to Z section. One other area I do want to mention just briefly, along with the accounting, auditing, regulatory information, internal controls, governmental GAAP guidance. We also do an excellent job from our editorial staff with our news. And that's actually, we have a daily news feed that comes into your email inbox every day. We do a weekly summary, which does a nice synopsis of all the different changes that have taken place throughout the course of the week, whether it's information from Washington, D.C. dealing with SEC guidance, whether it's information coming out of Connecticut for the FAF, which is the FASB. We've got all that information via email that's sent to you on a daily and on a weekly basis on Friday. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover today. I want to be respectful of the time here, but we do also have some other tools and guidance dealing with revenue recognition, so topic 606. We've got a FASB cross-reference tool. If you're looking up an old FAS number, like FAS 48, for example, you can cross-reference it to the new FASB codification information as of July 2009. All that took place, but if you need to retroactively look up information, you can do that. And then obviously our 10K lookup feature, which allows you to go into a deep dive for publicly traded company on NASDAQ or on the New York Stock Exchange. You can look up a 10K, a 10Q, any type of filing information, an S1 form, whatever it may be. You can look it up by stock symbol or stock ticker symbol, the actual corporate name. You can also search it by the type of filing status, whether it's a large accelerator filer, whether it's a small publicly traded company. You can search it that way as well. So if you do have any other questions or concerns, or if you ever want to take a look at what CCH ARM has to offer, we definitely offer a 14-day trial where you can go ahead and walk through the system yourself, kind of take a kick the tires, look at it, so to speak. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions or concerns that you guys may have as well. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to our speaker that's going to actually take us through the last polling question.
So thanks, Matt, for the demonstration of CCH Accounting Research Manager, and a thank you to our speaker, Stephen, for a great and informative presentation. This will be the final polling question, and it's just simply, do you want a more in-depth demo or further details on the resources and tools available in CCH Accounting Research Manager? This question will remain up as we wrap up today's event. Today's Lunch and Learn will conclude once this polling question is completed. As a reminder, there will also be a few quick survey questions for you to complete following the webinar. For anyone who answered at least 3 of the required polling questions and stayed connected to the entire webcast, you can expect to receive an email within 2 to 5 business days with instructions on how to access your CPE certificate. Please note the instructions will be sent to the email you used to enroll for today's event. Thank all of you for attending our October Lunch and Learn brought to you by CCH Accounting Research Manager, and we will leave the last question up for another 30 seconds, and this concludes our webinar today. See you next time.